Out, ladies and gentlemen, and it is National Caregivers Day. If you know a national, or not a national, if you know a caregiver, we're going to talk a little bit about that and why you should appreciate them with Becky Beanblossom. She is here. She is the president and founder of Home Instead Senior Care. Becky, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Before we get into National Caregivers Day, and I think it is a day we should celebrate or at least recognize caregivers. Let's talk a little bit about your company and what you do, Becky.
Okay, I appreciate it. So for about 21 years here in Louisville, we have taken care of seniors largely in their home. So we provide one-on-one care. We help with things like bathing and dressing, meal prep, taking folks to the doctor, keeping their house clean, prompting meds, things that really help keep people independent and help them to live where they choose.
So you have a special understanding of what it takes to be a caregiver. So what do people maybe who are watching, viewers, not know about what is entailed in caregiving?
I think sometimes people underestimate how difficult caregiving can be. While you either love the person that you're caring for because they're a family member or you do it professionally, I think sometimes they are not always cognizant of the toll that it takes on them personally. And we'd love to remind folks that if you are in the middle of a caregiving situation, just to make sure that you take good care of yourself. Can't care for somebody else until you properly care for yourself.
Let's talk. That's a good point. Let's talk a little bit about, because you do tend to forget about yourself because you're so involved and immersed in this person you're caring for. Let's talk a little bit about professional caregivers.
Right.
I mean, this is a person who has to have many skill sets, juggle many balls, and still be compassionate at the same time. So tell me a little bit about that, because that's what you do.
That's right. You know, we have a huge team of caregivers, and they're in high demand now because more people than ever are wanting to stay in their homes. And as we all know, we have an aging society. So finding these folks out there that really have the heart of a caregiver. I always say I can train the skills, but I can't train the heart. So we're looking for people that have that huge heart. But it is still demanding. I think people forget you develop a relationship when you're with someone. You're in their home, maybe daily, maybe every other day, several times a week. You're preparing their food. You're helping them with the most intimate kind of care possible. And then sometimes you lose that person to death. Sometimes they move to a facility. They move maybe out of town to be closer to a loved one. So it is a real heartfelt work. It's mission kind of minded work, if you will. And it's difficult. It's difficult to do that, to build that bond and relationship. You feel like you've lost a family member.
With Home Instead Senior Care, tell me what it takes. I know you look for really special people, but you said you're willing to train them.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about what that training involves. What kind of training for folks who think, hey, I'd like to be a caregiver, I have that compassion. Yes. What kind of training do they need?
You know, we love those folks because a lot of those people had experience caring for their own loved one, potentially their mother, sometimes even a spouse, and they say it was such a fulfilling and rewarding experience. That's actually how I became, how I got into Home Instead Senior Care originally, was I took care of my grandfather, Peachy, and fell in love with the process
of nickname again?
Peachy.
I love it. I love Peachy.
Yeah.
That is endearing. I love it. Okay. So you know what it takes.
I do know what it takes. So we're looking for those folks. The training that we offer is, you know, first aid training. We do CPR training. We do all sorts of training with dementia and Alzheimer's, or around dementia and Alzheimer's, and caring for those folks. Just basic skills, and even using a walker, using a wheelchair, how to do bed care, how to use a Hoyer lift, which is much more advanced, but even how to prepare nutritious meals for folks. You know, a lot of people cook the easy way and microwave meals, back to preparing maybe a little bit more nutritious meals and that somebody could save and eat over a period of a couple of days. So there's all sorts of training that goes into preparing somebody to give care in the home.
Something off script here, Becky. If you know a caregiver, and many of us do, I think the point that you made about they tend not to take care of themselves because they love this person so much. You've obviously been there, and I think if you can on National Caregiver Day, give them a break.
Absolutely.
Or perhaps, you know, hey, buy them a massage. You know, do something for them. Come in and say, look, let me take care of mom or dad. You know, you need some time to yourself. Would that be a sufficient gift? I think it would.
I think that would be an amazing gift. And I also think sometimes people don't ask because they don't know how to ask that question. And that goes both ways. The person who's caring for someone doesn't really think anybody else wants to help, right? And so they don't ask. I always tell caregivers that are caring for a loved one, ask for something actionable. You have a great friend who loves to cook, ask that she prepare a meal a week.
There you go.
You have a next door neighbor that's willing to cut your grass, let them. You have somebody that'll come over and sit with your mom and chat with her while you go for a good long walk, let them. But get actionable things, because people say, I'd love to help. Okay, if you'd love to help, how about you come over on a Thursday for 30 minutes and let me take a walk? Very actionable, and you'll find that people will respond to that beautifully because people do really want to help.
I love that. Yeah, to the point. If they have a certain skill set, ask them directly.
That's right.
They want to help.
They do.
So remodel my kitchen, if you would, please. I'll be back in about 3 days. Okay.
I think that's a little much.
Okay, sorry. Just going to give it a shot. We talk about the stress of caregivers on National Caregiver Day. So how does Home Instead help some of that, relieve some of that stress?
Right. So a huge percentage of people don't get any help when they're caring for their loved one. And I hate to hear that because it can be difficult, but it can also be very enjoyable. But if you're completely tapped out and you're dry, you don't have anything left to give. And any joy that you would have experienced in that relationship is potentially sucked right out of it. So we love when people call us because our caregivers will come to the home. They'll work 4 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, whatever is needed to give that loved one a break. And we like a consistent schedule, same person coming into the home, same routine. You know what they're going to do. They know what they're supposed to do, and you can trust them completely. And it's not like a stranger's coming in and out of the home. It just makes it so much easier for everybody. But we get that all kicked off with a simple assessment in the home and get started. It's really simple.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because I think sometimes mom or dad or whoever may be reluctant to have someone in their home. You know, a lot of people are private, and you understand that. You're sensitive to that. So is there like an interview process, or how does that work, Becky?
Right. We call it an assessment. It's where we come into the home, and typically we're sitting with an adult child, typically a daughter, but doesn't have to be. Often is the son as well, and the loved one. And you're right. Mom or dad is usually resistant to care. I don't need the help. I don't need the help. Prideful. We're going to be the same way. We're not going to want anybody in our home, a stranger in our home. We find that when we put that senior in the driver's seat, it's their decision. It's their life, and they have the right to choose as they choose to live. We all have that right. Good decisions and bad decisions, we get to make them as adults. As long as they're cognitively intact, they get to make those decisions. So we honor that, and we let them be in control of the process. Tell me what I'll usually start out, especially with men, tell me what it is you don't like to do. I don't like to cook. Great. I'll get you a caregiver that knows how to cook. What else in the house maybe are you finding a little bit either difficult to do or you just don't want to do it? Well, I hate to clean. All right, let's start cleaning. So then we start kind of peeling that onion, and we get in there a little bit more. And as they get comfortable with the caregiver, they get more comfortable and maybe even get comfortable enough to let us assist them in bathing.
So it's a process.
It really is.
But you know what? I'm glad that you respect that, because I think if you come in right away and try to kind of force the issue, it's a relationship. I love that. And I'm sure some of the time, or quite a bit of the time probably, it becomes a loving relationship, a friendship at the very least.
It really does. And it's interesting. We have folks that we service maybe on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, and they're often call on Tuesday, and they're like, where's my caregiver today? Well, she comes again tomorrow, but if we need to add 5 days a week or 7 days a week, we will. But it does. It gets to the point where they actually look forward to their visit. And sometimes if the caregiver's ill, while we guarantee coverage, so we'd say if your caregiver's ill, we'll provide another caregiver. Many times they're like, no, I'll just wait for her to get back tomorrow.
That's a compliment.
It is, really.
Flattering. So again, and I know you've mentioned this, but we've touched upon it. Let's go a little bit deeper. Your range of services. If mom or dad they do pretty well on their own, but like you said, something very small. Or, well, if you would, the range, which way it goes.
That's right. You know, I think people are often surprised because they hear about personal care services in the home and they really don't know what to expect. So you're right, we can come in and prepare a meal and keep the house tidy, take you to your appointments. So that's somebody who's pretty good, doing pretty well on their own, right? Pretty self-sufficient. And then maybe we roll into, maybe they need help in a shower. You know, a lot of falls happen in the kitchen and the bathroom. We want to prevent those. So we start helping maybe in some of the bathroom routines. And then we can care for somebody all the way up to end of life. So we can do full bed care with a Hoyer. We work hand in hand with hospice very frequently. So we can do whatever's needed.
These are great stories. So, National Caregiver Day. My next question to you is this. As we mentioned before at the beginning of the segment, if someone's interested in becoming a caregiver, do you have openings available?
Absolutely.
Because I think your company is really where people would want to be, because it sounds like that compassion component is important.
Well, you know, when you mentioned, you know, taking care of the caregiver, and it's not just the family member that needs to take care of them as themselves, but we want to take care of our professional caregiver as well. So I really believe in like elevating the level of professionalism of caregivers. Caregivers are professionals. This is a job, a career that they choose. And so we have 401k and full health insurance and dental and vision and the whole 9 yards. We want people to be able, who are gifted, to serve their mission, to do the love of their heart. We want them to be able to do it. We also want them to do it as a career and support their families. So I encourage people to come and apply with us. We take interviews all the time, and like I said, we'd love to get them trained where they feel like they have deficits or where we've identified they have an opportunity for growth, and get them out in the field, get them matched with that client, and really help them do what it is that they love to do.
Wow, I can tell you're very passionate about what you do for a living. That's why you're the CEO. That's why you're the founder. I love that. No. So National Caregiver Day, before we let you go here, how are you celebrating? I mean, you're the founder of Home Instead Senior Care, so how are you going to celebrate?
I'll just be celebrating by loving on my staff today and loving on the caregivers that, like I said, we have hundreds of caregivers that are out in the field, and I wish I could see every single one of them every day. I tell them all the time, I pray for them daily. We care for them so much. We want to make sure that they have all their needs met, and that's hard to do with a big staff that's fairly remote, but I'll just be making contact with those and trying to put my arms around them from a distance and give them a big hug.
Well, happy National Caregivers Day.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, and personally, I bet you have all kinds of senior friends all over the city, right?
Oh my gosh, we have had the great privilege of taking care of some of the most fascinating human beings on the planet, and every day I count it a privilege to work with some of the most amazing people. But such a great privilege, too, to take care of people that, I mean, have helped build this city, have done things that you and I are, I mean, just amazing. Some World War II veterans, some physician stories of first female this and that. The list goes on and on. It is such an honor.
Yeah, you're right. Just because they need a little help doesn't make them any less fascinating or interesting. You're exactly right. Yeah.
Phenomenal
Yeah,
people.
it's fantastic. Okay, Home Instead Senior Care. And again, happy National Caregivers Day. You know how to celebrate. Find that caregiver, give them a big hug. Hey, give them a break. Thank you, Becky, thank you for your time.